Cleveland, your favorite show is on. Hey Cleveland. Hey Cleveland, your favorite show is on. Good Day with Olivia begins right now.
Like, who's Olivia?
Who's Olivia? You know, that girl on the radio. You know, the little short girl. She ain't no but 3 feet tall. You know, her love for the city is greater than her stature. It was a joke, it was a joke, it was a joke. She's so crazy. Lighten up a little bit.
She's my favorite host on the KAZ radio and television.
Greetings, Cleveland, and good morning. Welcome back to the Good Day with Olivia show here on your favorite network, the KAZ Radio and Television Network. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Olivia Winstead, here serving up the good news happening right here in the city of Cleveland, keeping you informed, engaged, and connected. Cleveland, today we will be exploring the art form of spoken word inside of the Poet Circle. In the studio, I have with me today 2 leaders of the art form here to talk about the history, the poetry scene here in the city of Cleveland, and how they are using poetry to transform an entire culture. I'd like to welcome to the studio this morning Mr. Billy Smalls.
How's everybody
Miss
this morning?
Sydney Whitney.
Hello.
And Tierra Khalid.
What's up, Cleveland?
Welcome, welcome. So before we jump right into the topic, first some news. So today is the 12th annual Youth Summit being hosted by Mayor Frank Jackson. You can go straight to the city website to find out details for location and time. He'll be giving out school supplies for kids going back to school this month. So if you need some book bags, pencils, papers, meet Mayor Frank Jackson today. I'm not sure what time, but go straight to the city website and they'll have all the details there. Thank you guys for joining me in the studio this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, it's such.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for bearing with me. Apparently, we have another marathon going on, so traffic was pretty congested getting in. Thank you guys for being up so early. But anyways,
No problem.
Let's talk about your Cleveland background. I want to take some time to get to know you 3. Are you all Cleveland natives? Were you born and raised here in the city of Cleveland?
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh
no!
I
don't think I should have said it.
Well, this is a show that promotes the city of Cleveland.
Yes.
Well, let's start. What do you love about this city? What do you love?
I love. You just got me caught up with the tongue right now. I would just say the museums here.
Yeah.
We're very unique with the museums. The Cleveland Orchestra. We have a lot of background in history from starting, so we're trying to keep it pushing through here in Cleveland. I can see that with everyone here, so that's pretty much.
Yeah. What are some things that you love to do here in the city of Cleveland?
Well, first and foremost, I'm not from Cleveland. I'm actually a military brat. I was born in Germany, so I have a little different background. But the love for Cleveland is so real. I call Cleveland home. So my favorite things to do would definitely be the museums, spoken word. Cleveland introduced me to what I do. So, like, I love the city, and it will always have a special place in my heart for that reason. So the poetry scene, we working on it.
Yeah.
The museums, the culture, the art, like I appreciate it here. So in any other place I've been, the music is different. Like the live music here, we have some of the best musicians to me in the world.
Yeah.
So like just being here and engrossed in the music and figuring out how that can marry poetry has been a beautiful experience. So it's a little bit different, but
Would you agree with that? Because you're a music journalist. I have no idea what that means. So, yeah. So what does that mean exactly?
What was the last word?
That,
I want to capture that moment.
No, she said that we have some pretty unique artists here.
Oh, I mean, actually, also, I was born and raised here in Cleveland. I mean, one of the things I like about it is the city's a blank canvas, you know? Like, if you go to other major cities, they already got it popping, but it's like here, we can build from the ground up. But, you know, there's some other things behind that we'll get into later as to, you know, some of the difficulties. But that kind of ties into what she was saying about the artists being so difficult here. I mean, not difficult, that's what I was going to say. But overall, I think that dealing with artists here is difficult, to answer your question.
Is difficult.
I would say that because, you could have some artists, say a SoundCloud rapper, or any type of musician, you get 300 followers on Instagram, you already think you're popping, you don't need to show up, you don't need, like a radio show like this, you feel like you don't have to show up, you don't feel like you have to contribute or really help the culture, because they feel that they've already established themselves because they got 3 songs on SoundCloud.
I see.
I'm not going to say any names, but one local artist didn't even have a SoundCloud. Wow. That much. So some of them don't even have a SoundCloud. Have one video on YouTube.
Wow, that's interesting. That sounds like a whole nother interview.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to come back and go into that.
Sound like he got the tea.
Yeah, it does. So let's explore the history of poetry. Can you enlighten us?
I mean, my aunt's a griot herself. She's a famous griot in Cleveland. But a griot is a storyteller. These roots go back to Africa. Probably even Aboriginals here on this continent. It's something that people of color do. We're in tune with rhythm and expressing ourselves. So even if you go back to Arabic culture, a griot or a poet was a leader. They were like the president because they could speak and they knew how to talk. So people would come and listen to them in a little tents or Bedouin tribes in the desert. Yeah. So it's a really deep, rich history of spoken word. Yeah. As I know it to be in Cleveland, like I just kind of brought up, and like I said, my aunt's been doing it for a long time, and I kind of just got into it. Cleveland Heights being one of we didn't even mention that, Cleveland Heights being like the epicenter of like spoken word and poetry. Really? That's a very artistic community. That's like our taste of Brooklyn, Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like you get so much, just not poetry wise, but just musically, people constantly create.
And you said Cleveland Heights. So are you talking about like the Coventry area?
Coventry area, branch out all of that area out, even going to maybe the South Euclid area is very rich area.
What's there that's causing like the poet community to gather there?
It's like the intelligentsia of Cleveland. You get a lot of professors and teachers who live in that area. A lot of my professors in college live there, so you can't avoid picking up, like just wanting to create. It's like a zeitgeist, like a spirit that just makes you want to like express yourself.
And that's what I want to know. As we're talking about the intellectual side of poetry. So, like, did you guys, to become poets, did you guys have to take a class? Did you guys study poetry? Like, what kind of education have you had to develop the skills in your gift?
I'm not. You go ahead.
So I don't have any professional training in poetry. I came to poetry because of trauma. So I needed an outlet to write, and I just picked up a pen and just kind of started writing. I didn't call it poetry at the time, nor did I perform it. But as I got into high school and middle school, there were some teachers, English teachers, that kind of saw that skill, and they kind of cultivated that and introduced me to poetry. One of the first poets I got introduced to was James Baldwin and Phyllis Wheatley. So I started really writing and listening and reading what their work was, and so I started to give my poetry or my writing at that time more structure. And then I started participating in competitions and did all right. So I was like, oh, might have a little something. So it kind of developed from there. So I don't have any formal training, or I didn't take any classes or anything like that younger years. But as I started making it more of a career, then that's when I went into more workshops to kind of hone in on the skill of performing and communication and writing and things like that, so I can kind of expand that.
I did some digging on you.
Okay.
You were on the Manny Hall show.
Yes, I love Manny Hall.
Where is he from?
I think he is from Cleveland. Shout out to Manny Hall. He is awesome. Love him.
Well, you said, as you're talking about, poetry was an outlet for trauma you experienced. You said that you have, you're not an outwardly emotionally expressive person, so poetry is your outlet. So I'm interested, like, what was your upbringing? What did you experience, and why is it so hard for you to express yourself emotionally outside of poetry?
Well, so being a military brat, my mother she traveled a lot. She had to. She went to a lot of different wars and things like that. So as she was gone, I had to live with my father at the time, and at that time, he was a police officer, so he worked, a lot of different shifts or whatever. So we had a babysitter, and that babysitter sexually abused me. So from that, there was a lot of anger built up and a lot of misunderstanding of what my body now meant, what it meant to be a young lady. So all these different layers in that. And so poetry became that outward experience because inwardly I didn't know how to deal with those things or express or tell somebody what was going on. So with that whole #MeToo campaign, it was kind of like, yes, this is how you use words to get people to talk about what's going on. I saw a couple of poets that kind of attached themselves to that movement, and then that's when, you know, kind of the light bulb went off. Like, yes, this is what you use poetry for. For me, it is not just the outlet for me, but how you kind of navigate your story to help somebody else come to a realization that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to seek help. It's okay to really seek, for me, God in the situation to get through that. So
You're also an author. What have you written?
So I've written one book, long story, long time ago, but it's called Digging Deeper to Go Further. The idea was using poetry to do just that, to kind of peel back the layers and not be afraid to show people who you are, for the means of transforming them, to help them get to where they're supposed to be. So that's what the book, it was a collection of poetry at that time in my life. So yeah.
Sydney Whitney.
Yeah.
You know, I love your name. I said I was going to say it all through this interview. I'm going to throw this to you.
Sure.
Are you writing much poetry these days?
I've heard someone been telling you that. I was just like, I have. I'm the type of person, I'm very shy. And when it comes to poetry or when it comes to expressing myself, I have a very difficult time doing that.
Let me ask you this. You and Mr. Billy Smalls, you two are connected.
Yes.
So tell me, like, how are you guys partnering?
Well, it started off him starting as being a music journalist. I did also graduate from Ohio Media School, so I'm into radio, podcasts, and just networking.
Okay.
Yes.
A
So
sister of media.
yes. So from there on, when I graduated, I just wanted to just use all my experience. Like I got graphic design, promoting, and just being consistent, because that's what is the best way to being consistent, to get your brand out, to get yourself out here in Cleveland. So we started off with our brand, Creative Culture, and how it's, you could say creative culture, but how it's like on the paper, it's like creative culture.
Yes,
So it's a create your different culture. So it's really something he can really more explain, because I really wasn't as prepared. But we started just doing events, Ladies on the Lake last November, which will be this November coming up, our first year of keeping our brand going. So we started.
Are you like the publicist of the brand?
I am. I do a little hosting, and I'm just more of the background, making sure things is going as needed. So I'm very precise what I do. I'm a Capricorn, so I'm on top of everything. I'm very professional, and I just like to see my vision come true.
Sounds like you have a great player on your team.
Oh yeah, like I said before, we wouldn't be the brand. It is without her. All the obstacles we've overcome. But as she said, yeah, creative culture is pretty much a brand like we saw a need. You know, like I always preface at what was one of our last slams. I was like asking the audience before the show, what would y'all be doing tonight if it's a Saturday? Where would you be? And it's like, would you be on 1-6?
Tell the audience, what is slam poetry?
Pretty much poetry slamming or slamming is a competitive way to get your poetry out.
And what you've done is opened up a platform for people.
Yeah, there were already platforms, but me and Sydney Whitney have like we feel we have a different kind of taste we can bring to people.
Okay.
Our energy is different.
Our energy,
people are willing to come to us because our vibe is just so positive, and we want to make sure that stays like that at the same time.
Oh, I see. Well, we could go more in detail about that when we're discussing how you guys are transforming the culture, because you guys are doing something that is very different in the poetry scene here in the city of Cleveland, as far as inviting diversity
is an issue
onto the platform.
It's something.
So let's talk about being a poet in Cleveland. Okay, what's your experience like here, and what is the scene like? What's available? Resources are out there for people to put out their gifts or to share their message.
Tier?
Let's start with you. What's it like being a poet here?
So, all right, poet 6 years ago, when One Truth was still here, and B-side was like shoulder to shoulder, and like it was like trying to get onto the Apollo stage. like to touch the carpet. Like, so to that poetry back then for me, because I wasn't a huge slam poet. I didn't want to compete. I just wanted to get on stage and just just go.
Yeah.
So B-side then, So B-side then, and it was a different feel. Like, it was like, this was like the busboy poet. So like, you waited for poets to get up. You like competed to get on the mic with the singers, because the singers was trying to take over our night. But like the poets was still coming heavy. So that's when you had like Liberty, B. Hosley. You had those poets still coming down and sharing gifts. And those are the poets that I looked up to at the time, because I was just getting introduced to what it was live. Like, I watched Def Poetry Jam, and so that was my context. And so coming to Cleveland and seeing kind of sort of that at B-side, that's how I grew up. So I was sneaking in B-side at 16, 17 years old. And, you know what I'm saying, trying to see what it was. I was like, what is this thing? Like, they real loud, and they doing this and that. And so that was my first experience. And now as I transition, I don't want to really speak on what it looks like now, because I haven't been everywhere. Like, you have the slam poet side, you have still kind of sort of the B-side side, you have other people coming up with their versions of what they think a poetry night, an open mic night should look like. So for me, I've taken my poetry outside of Cleveland, and I mean, I still go and speak, different places, but now I'm more so in the mindset of using it as a career. So I don't really do open mics anymore. So it's more like speaking in schools, doing workshops, things like this, traveling, doing it. So I've been off. I've been out for a minute. So I'm sure they can better tell you, what it looked like now.
Well, I mean, go on. I'm sorry.
No. I wanted to know for you, like, what is it like being a poet here in the city of Cleveland?
It's difficult in a way, and I've been really reflecting on that.
And also, I'm sorry for pausing, because I don't want you to miss out on where you actually started from doing poetry, and don't want to, because he's gonna have a whole nother experience coming from how he started and where he at now.
Okay.
So I think it would be better if you start from where you.
I mean,
started,
well, I started like Tiara said. Like you asked earlier, how did you decide to be a poet? How do you develop professionally as a poet? And there's really no way to do it. Like, you either have it or you don't. Like, I had an English teacher who pretty much, like she said, just like, I think you could do it. That was it. Mm-hmm. I went to a few of the workshops in Cleveland Heights. I represented Cleveland Heights because I'm from Warrensville Heights. We don't have nothing. Like, it's a dead zone. It's really like whatever. So Heights, like I said, that's where you go to create. So that's where I started out. Back then it was cool as high school kids, whatever, we were slamming. I stepped away from it for a long time. I remember the Kamikaze.
Yes.
Yes, she didn't even mention the Kamikaze. Yes. It was one of the spots on Warrensville Center Road.
Yeah, so and it was like one of those spots you had to go to.
You had to go
like,
to.
If you came to Cleveland, this is where you go for spoken word.
It was popping on Sundays.
It's no longer there.
No longer. They
it's
had
been gone for a long
sex
time.
scandal. Pretty much shut it down. Remember that on the news? I don't know.
Wow. You need your own show. You need a tea. Let me go find a tea.
I'm telling you, he got the tea, but I got mine nice and hot.
It was sad because I met so many cool people, because you don't get that here. Like I said, if you want to go out, you either go to West 6, you either, the typical, Truies and Robin Jeans. You know what I'm saying? You can't.
Networking community large here, since you don't have like the Kamikaze anymore. How large is the community?
Surprisingly pretty big. Me and Sydney found out.
There are a lot of poets in Cleveland. Like,
it's a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, because so you have your Damien, and shout out to Damien and Ephraim. Like, these two on the slam poetry side are just blow my mind, incredible. So like, you have like this slam poetry community that is huge, and even outside of that, the people who come and support them is huge. Yeah. But then you have the old school, I like to say, I guess old school, that came from Kamikaze and B-side. So like, there's this split in Cleveland to me of them versus us, and we don't come together and see each other or support each other's events. Like, because you don't see Damien at an event, like maybe like a networking event, opening it up, but you'll see him slamming, but we don't go support that. And then they, to me, don't come and see like the B-side. Like, we don't really mix for real. Yeah. So
you guys, as you're transforming culture, maybe you guys will figure out how to bridge that gap, if it even needs to be bridged.
It's kind of like Harlem versus Bronx. Like, do you need to bridge the gap between the different cultures? Like, because everybody don't like listening to Sam. Like, some people are like, it's competition. I'm not really into the. But some people love watching this because it's like watching two poets box or more than
Right,
one point.
right.
It's amazing. I love it. The adrenaline.
No.
And then I mean, there's some people who just they chill like they don't. It's different. So
You know, I came across you on Instagram, both of you, and what got me was your F boy poem. Okay, so let's talk about what an F boy. What is an F boy?
Well, I mean, it's contextual. It depends on how you want. I mean, in the context of my poem, I'm just talking about the dudes who slide in females' DMs. I mean, I feel like, you know, a guy has to take responsibility. You know what I mean?
Do you mind sharing maybe 30 seconds worth of most powerful lines?
Yeah.
In that
yeah.
poem.
The most powerful lines to me are like the beginning part. So it's like, I'm a boy. I'm the Trojan horse at the gates of Troy. I'm part of the cause for the contradictions and schisms in contemporary feminism. The only time I say me too is when me and the homies roll up and laugh about the females we shared and ran through, and I'll be like, me too. You're confused. I'm more than just an ego boost. I'm here to boost you for your self-esteem and confidence. It's quite obvious whether you're mother, sister, friend, or best friend. I'm all in. Into your pics and inbox, anything to get into your box if you let me. Something's not right, but you won't block me. Why? Because you see me flex and low-key I turn you on. Besides, it's all in fun when I post tongue, smiley, smiley hearts, and exclamation point emojis under all 500 of your selfies.
Man.
Is that 30 seconds?
Maybe a little over, but man, that was deep, and like, you know, I understand that because I'm coming from the generation of Texas and DMs. But for our older audience out there, what is that? What is this poem about? And who did you make this poem for?
It's just pretty much. I mean, and that's a good point. Like, when I do this poem in front of like an older audience, they don't get all, because they don't know what hashtag is and all this stuff. But I mean, I wrote it because I'm a guy. Like, I'm not gonna front. Like Tiara said, like poetry is a way to get in tune with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm finding myself by just toying with words and phrases in my head. So I wrote this because I'm not the pimp kind of guy, but I know those dudes. Like, a guy knows a guy. Like, I hang out with them.
Can I explain to the audience out there? So what he's done is incorporate like our culture, growing up with dating through I like to say digital dating through text, the smiley faces. He's incorporated this language in this new style of dating with the smiley faces, hashtags, this social media kind of
take me
style
back.
of dating
Take me back.
to address young men who take advantage of young women. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
You summed it up, packaged it real nicely, because sometimes I just rant and keep talking and I build my points. But no, that's exactly precisely it. Like, the guys citing the DMs are everything. They could give you everything you want at face value, but they only want one thing still. You know what I mean? And it's just so easy for people to get what do you call it? Yeah, cap.
You wrote
Catfish?
this?
Catfish.
Yeah. So you wrote this for your sisters, right?
I wrote this, yes, for all the young ladies out there, because, I mean, you know, men are dogs, but, you know, y'all got to see, like, because these guys pop up on here, they look appetizing or whatever. You know, just look out for, be safe. You know what I mean?
And just to clarify, not all of you guys, not, you know, but, you know, just there was a warning to all the young women out there.
I'm sure everybody's seen it.
Yeah.
It's daily.
Let's go to you. Could you share with us a piece of your most powerful poem and the 30 seconds worth of lines?
A white girl looked me in the eyes of my soul the other day and asked me, "What's that thing that you call on your head?" I looked, and right before I wanted to slap that colonizer on her left side of her cheek, I replied that this thing is called royalty. It is ingrained in stories, often suffocated and whitewashed by your history books. It is Sunday morning ponytails and barrettes. It's blue magic grease, hot combs, water, and the perfect edge control, all mixed to make magic. This thing is called royalty. So that piece, it's called Coils. And it was in a response to this white girl walking up to me, and she was like, what's that thing like on your head? And I had braids wrapped up in a scarf. And I was just like, I really wanted to respond very viciously, but I decided, I was like, you know what, girl?
Yeah.
So it was really just to help black girls realize, like, I don't care whether it's relaxed, it's yours, it's natural, whatever. it's royalty. Like, that's your crown. It's an outward expression of who you are, what you've been through. Because we all know, like, go through the right relationship, you shave your head off, like,
right.
you know. And so, because I had my Angela Bassett moment, I was all in love and whatnot, and then that fool went and did what he did. So shaved it off, like. But then it was also, you know, me falling in love with myself, so like treating it better, like taking better care of it. So I really think it's an outward expression of, you know, who you are and what you are, and or what you even perceive that you should be in society. So like it's so much more than hair. So that it was a response to
nice.
to her question.
I like
Now
that.
you guys have the big task, and I feel like this is for any artist, but you guys are transforming a culture. How are you doing that? You are opening up a platform to introduce diversity in the Cleveland scene, and you are transforming the culture by using poetry as like a ministry. You said poetry is like having a conversation with God.
No, it is. So for the process will better explain like how I use poetry. So the process is, all right, God, what's the problem? For me, we commune, have some conversation, and I find a song that I think speaks to what I'm trying to say, and put that song on repeat, right? Go through a process and then perform it. And the performance is not the most important part. A lot of poets, to me, get caught up, and I'm speaking more to the ones who use it as a career. I think they get more caught up in the stage and forget what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm literally becoming a person at that point who is a doctor. So I'm opening up everybody's wounds in whatever piece I'm using.
Yeah.
So after that, how do I close that? And is that my responsibility? Well, for me, it is. So if I go on stage talking about a Me Too piece, then there are going to inevitably be women who walk up and say, that was me too. Yeah. So what do I do at that moment to, one, show her how God has transformed my life and how it's possible for her to receive him? Now, I'm not going around trying with Bibles slapping people upside the head like, you need to know Jesus. That's not my ministry. My ministry is, if you ask me, how did you get through that? That's my perfect point to say, look, this ain't me. This is all him. So that's why poetry is so much more than writing, getting up, and performing. It's a chance to really get to people who might not otherwise go and see him somewhere else. So
So you pretty much answered my next question. Is like, is poetry, you know, when we think of poetry as like the style, like the literary piece, is it able to transform, change, make social change, or like how is it, or is it like a tool to initiate the change?
I mean, it's all of that. Like, when we talk about the history, right? Like,
Right.
some, like,
That's
poetry, poets were in the front of the stuff. Like, music was in the front of social change. Mm-hmm. When you think about some of the greats that have come through, like, I mean, Saul Williams did a whole piece on incarceration. So that opened up conversation for that.
What?
So, like, poetry and music is absolutely supposed to speak at what's going on. And that's why I'm so angry at music now, because it's like, y'all, what are we talking about? Like, music and poetry has always been the things that got the conversation started, and then that's when people paid attention to it. It's like, yeah, that is what's going on. Like, we got to do something about it. Think about D-Day. That was a DJ who did that. Like, you know, told all the kids to leave school and go protest in the 60s. Like, that was a DJ.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
What needs to transform? What needs to be different about the Cleveland culture that poetry has the responsibility to mend or change?
I feel like piggybacking on what Tiara said, I kind of differ in a way, because I feel like the music is, I was watching an interview with Erykah Badu, and she pretty much touched on that. It's just the frequencies of our generation. Like, I mean, yeah, we had the Gil Scott-Herons, we had these people, but the people were different back then. They read more, obviously. They didn't have all these distractions. So the music we got now is just feeding whatever frequency. This is what they're in tune to. The message could still get through, but it's just like art. If you see an ugly piece of art, that's a personal perspective. Someone else may find it beautiful and put 10 stacks down on it.
So
you see, so here in Cleveland, to answer your question, I feel like it's just unity. That's that's what me and Sydney Whitney have come across. And Tiara said she's been out for a little while, but we've experienced that it's been like a unity issue.
And you know what?
And you did say that though, like, people don't want to come together and like really.
Yeah, like, because it's like, if I see you doing your open mic night, instead of me supporting yours, I'll go and throw one on the same night as yours. And I'm like, yo, do y'all know we are attacking the same market of people? So it's a business mindset as well. We don't have a business mindset. Like, if we think about how many years open mics have been up, why don't we have our own place yet? Like, why don't we have a building that belongs to us? because all of this $5 and $10 we've been charging people for the last 20 years, we should have been had a building, like, and had a place where we could cultivate the younger scholars coming up. You know what I'm saying? A place where we can really go and do that. But instead of me saying, hey, bro, let me take my resources and help you on your night, let's, you know what I'm saying, really build that up and use whatever networks we have to come and get our own place. Like, we would rather compete with each other. It ain't no competition. We talk to the same people.
I wish we could extend this conversation, but you know what? Time is coming too. Tell people where they can reach out to you.
You can find me on all social media, Tierra Khalid, Tierra Khalid, Kahli. Look forward to y'all.
Follow us at Creative Culture, CreativeCulture. Creative Culture. We got posters coming up, so stay tuned.
Well, there you have